Exposed. Three spine-chilling true Halloween tales of haunted secrets and sinister discoveries. Rain pounded against the worn-down roof of the diner, where Laura wiped down a sticky counter for the 100th time that night. The fluorescent lights flickered ominously, just like the whispers circulating through their small Midwestern suburb. Missing children. Reports of a masked figure lurking after dark. Panic seeped into every corner of the neighborhood, and dread settled like a heavy fog in Laura's chest. She couldn't let it get to her. Not with Timmy at home, waiting for her. Yet, as Halloween approached, the festive decorations started to feel more sinister than cheerful. The smiling ghosts and playful pumpkins that decorated lawns now seemed like deceptive masks hiding something darker. Each time a hurried parent told another cautionary tale, Laura's heart quickened. The walls of her home closed in around her, a tangible reminder of the fear clawing at her mind. In the still of the night, as she lay awake in bed, the chill of anxiety gripped her like a vice. The safe world she had built for her son was cracking, fragments threatening to collapse around them. Just then, she heard an eerie rustle at the door. A slip of paper slid beneath it, curling at the edge. Dread pooled in her stomach like ice. A warning. The note spoke of Mr. Grant, the beloved schoolteacher. He is not what he seems. It read, words scrawled with a shaky hand. At first, it felt like just another skittish neighbor's fear running wild, but things took a turn for the worse. Missing toys. Muffled laughter from the backyard that she dismissed as the wind. Timmy's gaze shifting whenever Mr. Grant waved at them. It gnawed at her, turning disbelief into obsession. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Night moved in shadowy drapes as Laura followed the trail, the air thick with unspoken truths. The rain spilled over the muddy ground like a morbid invitation, and she stumbled upon what felt like a graveyard of innocence, discarded toys, and used clothes, remnants of children long missing, each piece more haunting than the last. Panic clawed at her throat. What had happened to the kids? Names hovered on the tips of her thoughts, begging for her to listen to them. The next day, at the park, Mr. Grant laughed with kids. Each joyful sound twisted the knife deeper into her gut as she approached him, heart racing. He turned, that same congenial grin plastered on his face, but behind it, a flicker of something sinister danced in his eyes. He watched Timmy play, a predator hidden behind a mask of neighborhood charm. As danger tightened its grip on her world, Laura realized the threat was not external. It was interwoven within the very fabric of her community. With Timmy playing blissfully unaware, she felt the darkness closing in. Nothing was as it seemed, and as Halloween night grew nearer, shadows loomed larger. "Timmy, come here," she called one evening, but there was no response. A sense of foreboding swept over her, leaving a sickening knot in her stomach. The laughter of children rang louder and louder in her ears, a grotesque echo of what could be lost. Then, just like that, Timmy was gone. Panic suffocated her as she stood in the empty playground, the chilling laughter fading into an unsettling silence. Was she too late to save him? The masked figure lurked, and with terror gripping her soul, she raced into the unknown. The truth, as it twisted and turned before her, was a nightmare that threatened to engulf them all. The wind howled like a wounded animal as Laura tore through the park, her heart pounding in her chest. The playground, once filled with laughter, now stood desolate, bathed in shadows that stretched ominously across the ground. Fear unraveled inside her, growing with every unanswered call for Timmy. Panic clawed at her throat, tightening its grip with each step she took deeper into the darkness. "Timmy!" she screamed, voice cracking. The empty swing swayed gently as if moved by unseen hands. Echoes of joyful shouts, now a haunting reminder of her child's absence. The scent of damp earth and wet leaves filled the air, each breath heavier than the last. She rushed to the nearby woods, branches grasping at her like skeletal fingers. The rustle of leaves sounded almost joyful, mocking her fear. Shadows danced as she pushed through, desperation fueling her fight. Think, Laura. Where would he go? Her mind raced, flitting through the only person whose name crawled under her skin, Mr. Grant. Every smile exchanged suddenly twisted into something sinister. Had he taken Timmy? The thought sent shivers down her spine, making her stomach churn. As she pressed deeper, the air thickened, stifling her thoughts. Then, she heard it laughter. A playful, childlike giggle. It echoed through the trees, sweet yet unnervingly distorted. Laura's gut churned. She bolted in the direction of the sound, heart hammering in her chest. At the edge of an old clearing, her breath caught. A small boy was playing, but it wasn't Timmy. It was a figure she recognized, one of the missing children. His vacant stare sent chills racing down her spine as he spun in circles, oblivious to the fallen leaves swirling around him like a spiraling vortex. "Help," he whispered faintly, his voice almost drowned by the shadows closing in. Then she saw a shape looming behind the boy, cloaked in darkness, its mask barely illuminated by the crescent moon. The grin beneath was wide and unsettling, an expression of pure malice. The laughter morphed, changing into a manic symphony, echoing through the woods. "No!" Laura shouted, rushing forward, panic fueling her every step. She had to save him. As she lunged to grab the boy, he vanished, swallowed by the darkness, leaving only echoing laughter behind. Breathless, she stumbled backward, fighting the urge to scream, the laughter fading into a bone-chilling silence. It dawned on her the nightmares weren't just shadows. They were alive, feeding off the fear of the community. She turned to flee but paused, realizing the laughter was no longer distant. It surrounded her, thrumming in her veins. Every step felt heavy, as if the ground itself conspired to pull her back. Shouts rang through the trees, an unholy chorus of missing children calling out for her. Laura, their voices twisted like barbed wire, digging deep into her sanity. The children's faces morphed into grimaces of pain. She squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head. "I have to find Timmy." As she dove back into the wooded shadows, an unexpected rustle caught her attention. A figure emerged from the darkness, a familiar silhouette standing just beyond her reach. "Timmy?" Hope shot through her. But the contours were wrong, too tall, too distorted. "Mommy," it whispered, a haunting echo that mimicked her son's voice, and then it grinned, a smile that twisted her stomach into knots, revealing too many teeth. An icy fear washed over Laura as the figure faded back into the darkness. "Timmy!" She screamed again, fighting through the dense fog of despair that threatened to consume her. With her heart in her throat, she raced on. The night wasn't finished terrorizing her yet, and whatever lurked in the shadows still craved more. Would she find him before it was too late? Or had the darkness claimed them both? As she pressed deeper, the sinister laughter returned, this time closer, echoing taunts in the hushed woods what awaited her beyond the next bend. Branches snapped underfoot as Laura pushed further into the night's thickening gloom. Each crunch sent shards of panic shooting through her. Timmy's name was a mantra, repeating over and over, yet the laughter entwined around her like a suffocating shroud. It beckoned, a cruel promise that teased her with hope and dread. "Timmy!" She screamed again, her voice swallowed whole by the vast darkness. It resonated back, mocking her. The shadows didn't just loom. They shifted, coiling and writhing. She felt eyes on her, unseen but undeniably present. In the distance, a flicker of light pierced the veil of night. Hope ignited in her chest. She sprinted toward it, but as she drew close, her heart sank. The light flickered wildly, unstable like a candle caught in a storm. Beneath it, the cracked earth opened into a jagged gash, leading down into an underground abyss. She hesitated. Timmy could be down there. Or was it another trap? The laughter edged around her again, but this time, it held a hint of clarity. "Help me," it twisted, the familiar tone that could have belonged to Timmy before the laughter returned, climbing higher, mocking her persistence. The sound echoed down into the chasm, bouncing off unseen walls. With a deep breath, Laura leaned over the edge. The abyss yawned wide. "Timmy!" she shouted, the words spiraling into the darkness. No answer came, just silence that crawled across her skin, weighing her down. Caution battled with desperation, each moment stretching, tangling her thoughts. "Laura!" The whisper seeped from the shadows, a gleaming thread pulling her imagination to a precipice of possibility. But it wasn't Timmy. It was the boy from the clearing, his face a mask of sorrow. "I need your help." "No. No way." She scanned the edge of the abyss, dread pooling in her stomach. The boy's features flickered, twisting in and out of her focus, reflecting the grasping hands of the lost, all those children who vanished, whose echoes resonated in her mind. "Stay back," Laura shouted, but terror weighed her down. The boy stepped closer, his eyes wide, pleading. Behind him, the darkness writhed ominously. The figure loomed again, the twisted smile stretching across impossibly pale features. "Help me, Laura, save us." A surge of defiance sparked in her chest. No more illusions. No more deceit. She turned on her heel, desperate to escape into the thick woods, shutting her eyes against the darkness. She sprinted, branches clawing at her, the laughter now a dissonant choir that echoed behind her, promising her despair. "Mommy!" Timmy's voice surged through the cacophony, familiar yet altered. She skidded to a halt, heart hammering. It sounded so close, so real. A gamble she had to take. "Timmy!" she screamed, voice raw with hope. "Oh, Mommy!" The wind called back, twisted and warped. The shadows thickened ahead, curling and deepening. She wanted to turn away, but instead, she edged forward. The laughter crescendoed, no longer taunting but building to an ominous crescendo, as if it fed off her fear. She stumbled upon another clearing. The moon broke through the clouds, illuminating a circle of stones, ancient and sinister. Each one appeared etched with lines of dark, pulsing energy, emanating a low hum. They almost vibrated, a chorus of voices edging at the edges of her mind, fragments of memories, shouts of ghostly laughter, overlapping her own thoughts. And then she saw him. Timmy. He stood at the center of the circle, lit by the moon, eyes wide with sheer terror. "Mommy, help me." But around him, something twisted, shadows constructed into dread figures that shifted and surged as if alive. Without thinking, Laura sprinted into the clearing, diving toward her son. "Timmy." And just as she reached for him, the darkness surged forward, swallowing her world in a chaotic roar. What else lay concealed in those shadows? Would she find her way back? As the darkness pulled them in, a deep, echoing laugh surrounded them. Dread washed over her. The real nightmare was only just beginning. What was lurking just beyond the circle, waiting for the moment to strike? Laura felt the roar of darkness close in, tightening its grip like a vice around her chest. Time lost meaning as her heart raced, each frantic beat sinking with the looming dread. She could see Timmy, his little figure radiating fear, but the shadows flanking him twisted in chaotic glee, eyes glinting with malice. Rushing forward, she nearly reached him when something icy brushed her arm, a coldness that sent a jolt of terror through her. The laughter of the shadows intensified. They danced at the edge of her vision, mocking her desperate attempts to break through. "Mommy, help me!" Timmy cried out again, his voice trembling with urgency. But she was stuck in the poisoned air of the clearing, heavy and oppressive. The energy from the stones buzzed beneath her feet, a slow, pulsing beat that echoed her frantic breaths. She forced herself to push through the suffocating fog of fear. "I'm coming. Hold on." Her voice trembled, but she charged onward, each step feeling like wading through molasses, the darkness clawing at her heels. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the periphery, its form slick and dark, a monstrous silhouette that seemed to pulse and shift. Laura recoiled, her instincts screaming at her to run. But behind her, the boy's voice sliced through her fear. "You have to help us, Laura. Trust me." "No," she yelled, desperation clawing at her throat. "I don't trust you." But she hesitated, torn between the terror of the child before her and the familiar face she desperately wanted to save. Timmy's cry broke through the unsettling laughter, raw and full of fear. "Mommy, please." At that moment, the shadows shrieked in unison, a wave of sound that reverberated through her. They closed in tighter, blocking her path to Timmy. She was running out of time. In one last attempt, she shouted, "I want to let you take him." With a fierce determination, she lunged towards Timmy, ignoring the whispers that clawed at her mind. As her fingers brushed against him, a jolt surged through her. Time seemed to freeze. The shadows shrieked. a cacophony of rage erupting. But she felt something shift inside her, a warmth igniting where the darkness struggled to seep in. "Mommy!" Timmy clamored against her, clinging with all his might. But just as relief flooded her veins, the ground beneath them shuddered. Light pulsed from the stones, a violent flash that threw the shadows back momentarily. It was then Laura saw the truth woven into the fabric of that darkness. The shadow figures weren't just born of despair, they were desperate too, tied to the children lost in this twisted realm, begging for release. "Help us," the boy still called, but now it was twisted with a note of frenzied urgency. She looked around, the shadows writhing, desperate to reclaim their lost souls. "Stop!" she shouted, a spark of authority igniting within her. "Leave them alone." The shadows convulsed, wavering in response. They paused, their movement hesitant, as if her defiance was a light they were not prepared for. But in that moment of uncertainty, another voice echoed darker, deeper. "You can't save them, Laura. They belong to me." The force surged back, the shadows thickening around her. Tendrils of darkness snaked forth, pulling at her, intent on dragging her into their depths. As the laughter crescendoed, she felt the circle of stones pulse violently, attempting to push back the encroaching shadows. Reality slipped as colors bled between the realms of light and dark, the air thick with suffocating urgency. "Mommy, don't leave me," Timmy whimpered, grounding her in that tiny moment. Laura could feel the fracture in reality, the choice stretched out before her. Could she shatter them free of the gripping darkness? Or would the shadows claim them, forever lost in the gaping maw of despair? The shadows lunged again, their claws sharp and inevitable. Darkness and light tangled around her in a deadly embrace, each moment threatening to erase them both. Then everything snapped. Would she stand and fight or succumb to the depths that threatened to swallow them whole? As the shadows closed in for the final strike, uncertainty lingered in the air. The next moment would define their fate or seal their doom. The shadows recoiled for a split second, their momentum stilled by Laura's sheer determination. But it was an instant, a fleeting moment where hope flickered like a dying candle. They surged back, relentless, consuming the space around her with a suffocating grip. "Laura, please." Timmy's voice quivered through the chaos, tugging at her heart like a lifeline. She turned her focus solely on him, his small frame trembling in her arms. In that heartbeat, she felt the warmth begin to wane, the chill from the darkness seeping deeper, clawing at her sanity. The shadows whispered her name, a more haunting melody than any lullaby. "Laura, join us now," she screamed. This isn't over. Yet the words felt hollow. The shadows were relentless, closing in again, their ethereal fingers brushing against her skin, icy and clammy, weaving a web that threatened to ensnare her. Desperation surged, and she pressed her body firmly against Timmy's. She could feel his little heart racing against her, pumping the same raw fear she felt. Around them, the brightness of the stones flickered, creating a strobe of light that briefly revealed the twisted faces within the shadows. Faces of children, their expressions frozen in anguish, eyes pleading for release. The realization hit Laura like a blow to the gut. They were trapped, unable to escape the darkness that held them. "Mommy, don't let them take me," Timmy cried, his voice breaking with terror. "I won't. I promise," she assured him, gritting her teeth against the encroaching despair. With every ounce of strength, Laura felt the pulse of the stones beneath her feet grow fiercer. She had to make a choice, a desperate gamble. She bent her will against the dark tide, drawing upon her own inner light, her love for Timmy. "Timmy, hold my hand tight," she yelled. He squeezed her fingers, trusting her against the encroaching void. The shadows writhed around them, hissing in outrage, and then, with a determined shout, Laura drew in a breath, a burst of energy igniting within her. "You don't own us." The shadows screeched, an awful, primal scream that shattered the stillness, a clarion call of unrelenting rage. But she could feel the stones circle responding, a fierce light breaking through at her command. It was as if the stones recognized her defiance, and they began to glow even brighter, pushing against the encroaching darkness. "Do you see, Mother?" The deep voice echoed again, now laced with fury. "It's futile. They belong to me." Desperation clawed at her mind. "No, this is not just about leaving. If I can't take them, then I'll shatter your hold. Laura! Timmy shrieked, his grip slackening as the shadows yanked him slightly away. Panic gripped her. Not happening. She dug her heels into the ground, pulling Timmy back with all her might. The shadows recoiled as if her resolve was a buffer, a bright wall they couldn't penetrate. But the weight of them was heavy, and she could feel their icy breath against her skin. Each heartbeat synced with the pulse of the stones, hard, fast, desperate. She needed to act now, before the darkness swallowed them whole. Timmy's terrified eyes met hers, and she saw in them a glimmer of something more than fear, fury, courage. "I'm not afraid, Mommy," he shouted. That was it. That was the spark. With newfound fierceness, she focused everything she had on that burning flicker of hope. "Then let's break free together. On the count of 3. Okay," he cried, a hint of rebellion in his voice. 1, 2, 3. They surged forward as one, hands gripping tightly, hearts roaring against the dark tide. A blinding light erupted from the stones, illuminating every corner of the clearing. Shadows screamed, a frightful cacophony that echoed into the ether, filled with fury and confusion. And as the world around them trembled, Laura's focus sharpened. There it was, a fissure in the borders of this forsaken realm. If they could just break through. A sudden jolt pulled her back. "You can't leave. You're mine." The darkness howled, unyielding, the ground trembling beneath her feet. "You have to decide, Laura. Will you save Timmy or protect yourself?" The choice laid bare before her, pregnant with consequence. And in that chilling second, she knew the shadows weren't just feeding off of fear. They were feeding off of something deeper, something she didn't need to confront head on. And then it hit her: the true cost of this fight was not just life or death, but the very remnants of her soul. Could she survive the price? Laura's breath hitched in her throat, the question echoing in her mind as the darkness lunged one last time, determined to keep them trapped. The next heartbeat could shatter everything. The ground beneath Laura trembled violently, the shaking threatening to split the earth as the shadows lunged at her once more. The weight of the darkness pressed in, each pulse of energy from the stones flickering like dying embers. The terrible voice echoed through the chaos. "You will regret this defiance. Hold tight, Timmy," Laura cried out, clenching her son's small hand like a lifeline. She could hear nothing but the violent thrum of her heart racing beneath the encroaching shadows, weaving despair around them like a dark tapestry. The stone's circle began to fray, light bursting forth in desperate sparks, as if it too was caught in a battle for survival. They had to move, had to focus that light, those fleeting moments of hope, into a weapon against the encroaching abyss. "We can't linger here," she shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "We have to go. We have to break through." Timmy pulled on her hand. "Mom, I'm scared." The quiver in his voice sent ice shooting through her veins. She looked down at him, trying to hold back her own trembling. "I know, sweetheart, but we have each other. Love can guide us. Just trust me." Tremors of doubt danced in her mind, but she had to push them down. They had battled fear together already. They had to channel that into strength. With resolve igniting in her chest, she fixed her eyes on the jagged fissure in the shadowy veil, feeling the energy pulse from the stones synchronize with the beat of her heart. "One more time," she shouted. "On 3 again." "Okay, I believe," Timmy shouted back, fear momentarily swallowed by determination. 1, 2, 3. They tore toward the fissure together, a flash of brilliance igniting around them, illuminating jangling memories of laughter and love, a stark contrast to the grip of tormenting shadows. But the darkness writhed wildly, snapping around them like a beast trying to reclaim its prey. "The boy is mine," the voice roared, trailing tendrils of cold air that gripped at Laura's throat. She fought through the clammy hands, pulling her back. "You cannot save him." "Yes, I can," she screamed with a ferocity born of desperation, feeling the warmth of the light empowering her, feeding her will. "You don't own him, and you don't own me." It was a final act, a desperate flinging of their weight against the darkness, and with a final lunge they broke through the veil. The world spun madly, colors twisting as they fell into a realm filled with blinding light. For a moment, they soared, free from the nightmare, before crashing back down into a cold, gray expanse. Timmy landed beside her, a thud that echoed in the silence. As Laura pushed herself up, she looked around. They were no longer in the forest, but still trapped in a desolate landscape. An endless field stretched out before them, barren, echoing with absence. She scanned for movement, for anything familiar, but nothing rested beside them, just an unending gray that melted into a horizon of darkness. "Where are we?" Timmy whimpered, clutching her arm tightly. "I don't know," Laura replied, tinged with fear again. "But we'll find a way. We have to keep moving." The shadows they had fought against now felt like a distant memory. Yet, as they turned to face their new reality, the silence thickened, pressing against them, an eerie calm before the storm. Instinctively, Laura stepped forward, pulling Timmy along, but the ground suddenly shuddered, the earth whispering secrets beneath their feet. Then came the laughter, soft and sinister, wrapping around them like a crouching predator. "Welcome home," it echoed, chilling her to the bone. "What does that mean, Mommy?" Timmy's voice trembled, and then the shadows flickered back at the edge of her vision, re-emerging like a waking nightmare. "How do we escape now?" As panic clawed at her, one question echoed through her mind. Had they truly escaped, or had they merely stepped deeper into the shadow's lair? The comforting grip of hope threatened to slip through her fingers as the ground shifted once more, dark mist rolling in. The chilling laughter intensified, and she felt it pulling her back, the shadows whispering promises of despair, ready to envelop them once again. An icy realization struck her: there was something waiting just beneath the surface. Something not finished yet. Laura, the voice seemed to hiss directly into her ear. "Your journey has only just begun." Heart racing, she turned to Timmy, stricken by fear. And before she could think, before she could argue against it, the shadows surged once more, wrapping around them, drawing them back toward the void. The shadows pulsed around them, a living entity intent on swallowing their very essence. Laura's breath hitched in her throat as the chilling wind whirled, a cacophony of whispers laced with torment echoing around her. "Mom!" Timmy screamed, his voice a raw note in the overwhelming darkness. She tightened her grip, terror clenching her heart. No, they had fought too hard to be dragged back into that nightmare. "Stay close," she yelled, feet rooted, refusing to move back as the ground shifted beneath them. Each tremor of the earth felt like the heartbeat of something ancient, something waiting. "Where do we go?" Timmy's eyes glimmered with tears, reflecting the malevolence of the shadows. "There has to be a way out," Laura replied, forcing herself to remain calm, her mind racing. The laughter, soft yet mocking, enveloped them like fog. She scanned the empty horizon, desperate for a glimmer of hope, a hint of shelter. Maybe there was something they could use, some remnant of the light they had escaped with. Then the shadows moved again, swirling towards Timmy like hungry serpents. A primal instinct surged. She yanked him close, feeling the warmth of his small body against hers, just as the shadows hissed in unsettling unison. "You cannot hide, little boy." "No," Laura cried out, rage igniting an ember within her. "Stay back." She reached deep within herself, summoning every ounce of love, every glimmer of hope to weave a shield around her son. But the shadows were relentless, and with a collective roar, they surged forward. Laura felt the cold breath of despair on her neck, the weight of fear pressing her down. It was a suffocating darkness swelling, threatening to envelop them completely. The ground beneath them flickered, a brief reflection of the brilliant light they had fallen from. In that moment of clarity, amidst the chaos, Laura remembered the stones. Their energies had pulsed like heartbeat. "We need to find the stones," she exclaimed. "They brought us here. They can help us." "But where?" Timmy trembled, pressing into her side. "Look." She pointed toward the horizon, where a faint shimmer broke through the dense gloom. "We have to go that way." Timmy nodded, determination filtering through his fear. They darted across the barren landscape, heartbeats racing as shadows chased from behind, claws of darkness stretching. Every step felt treacherous, each jolt of movement laced with a fear that clawed at their backs. As they approached the shimmer, it shifted, morphing into an ethereal stone embedded in the earth, pulsating like a distant star. "Touch it, Mom," Timmy urged. "I don't know." Timothy. Laura hesitated, but the shadows were too close. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, placing her palm against the stone. A surge of warmth ignited through her body. "It's alive," she gasped. Suddenly, the laughter halted, as if caught in a frozen moment. The shadows writhed, as though repelled by the light radiating from the stone. You think that can save you? You're still trapped. The voice screeched, a screech that throbbed in her chest. We're not trapped, she shouted, feeling power radiate through her arm, igniting her resolve. We're free to choose. Timmy's gaze sparkled with a mix of terror and hope. We can do this together, right, Mom? Laura felt the strength swell within her, bolstered by her son's unwavering faith. Yes, we can. As the stone's light burst forth, the shadows recoiled, shrieking into a whirlwind. The air thickened, swirling with energy, clashing against the encroaching darkness. But just as hope ignited, Laura noticed the edges of their sanctuary flickering. Hurry, she urged, feeling the shadows lurch forward again. And then the ground split. A crack opened beneath them, darkness crawling upward in tendrils, beckoning with sinister grace. The stone pulsed erratically, light struggling against the impending void. Mom! Timmy screamed as he stumbled. Hold on. Panic laced her voice. She clasped his hand tighter, but the fissure yawned wide, an insatiable maw of night. The stone flickered, caught between stubborn light and ravenous. Dark. Make your choice. The voice coiled around them, mocking. Will you leap willingly into the abyss? And within that fleeting moment of choice, with shadows eager to consume them, Laura felt a surge of clarity amidst chaos. They were not alone. But the shadows whispered a truth, a promise that they had a darkness inside, waiting for the right moment to unfold. Go, she shouted, and together they leaped, towards the unknown, towards the truth of their entwined destinies. As the light swallowed them, straining against the dark, she held her breath. What awaited on the other side became a chilling question in her mind. Will we finally be free or just caught in another snare? The ground shattered as they plunged forward, darkness swallowing their cries, sending them hurtling into deeper realms of lost dreams and lurking fears. They tumbled through the veil, a rush of darkness and light, spiraling into an abyss of uncertainty. The world twisted, blurred, sound melded into silence as they dropped deeper. When at last they landed, it was not on solid ground, but rather a soft expanse, damp beneath their feet, like rotting leaves in a decaying forest. Timmy, Laura called, scanning the oppressive gloom around them. Shadows loomed, writhing as remnants from their last encounter. She felt the cold ground pulse beneath her, echoing the lingering heartbeat of the stone. Where are we? Timmy's voice trembled, a sharp contrast to the stillness enveloping them. Laura pushed her fear down, fighting the rising panic. I don't know, sweetheart, but we have to stay together. As her eyes adjusted, flickers of movement caught her attention, a glint in the darkness. Shapes emerged, vaguely human-like, their eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. What are those? Timmy whispered, squeezing her hand like a vice. They look like shadows, Laura said, her heart racing. But they're different. They're watching us. The figures advanced, gliding effortlessly, a creeping fog of terror. Each movement felt deliberate, as if orchestrated to draw out their fear. Mom, what do we do? Timmy's voice rose, dripping with urgency. Just breathe. We need to focus. Laura closed her eyes, remembering the warmth of the stone, its energy thriving in her core. If we can find another stone, maybe we can tap into that power again. The shadow creatures halted, their glowing eyes flickering. The laughter resumed, a chorus of contempt echoing in the air. You'll find no refuge here, light-bearers, one hissed, its form rippling. You are in the realm of despair. Shut up, Laura shouted, throwing her fear outward like a spear. The shadows recoiled, not from the force of her words, but from the raw defiance that surged in her voice. Mom, we need to go, Timmy urged. Right. Taking Timmy's small hand, she started forward. The ground felt wrong beneath them, like stepping on a pulse that wanted to pull them under. They moved cautiously, scanning the dark for any glimmer, but the shadows pressed in, weaving around them like a suffocating blanket. With each step, whispers grew louder, fragments of lost souls clawing through the void. Join us, forever lost, you cannot escape now. Laura yelled against the swirling chaos. You want to take us. She gripped Timmy's hand tighter, their bond flickering like candlelight. But the world shifted again, twisting like a funhouse mirror. They stumbled, nearly falling as the shadows formed a wall around them. pulsating with sinister energy. "Mom!" Timmy cried, tugging at her. But suddenly, they were separated. Laura felt the grip on her hand slip, an icy fear washing over her. "Timmy! No!" she screamed, reaching into the dark. The shadows surged forward, enveloping Timmy entirely. "Join us!" they jeered, a cacophony of tortured laughter resonating through the air. "Let him go!" Laura surged forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She couldn't remember how long they had been in darkness, but she knew desperation. She felt a pull, a sensation drawing her toward the heart of the shadows, and in a heartbeat of action, she charged into the thick of it. "Stop! You can't have him!" she shouted, channeling every ounce of strength into a blinding light. Time seemed to stretch as her body illuminated a path, casting aside the oppressive dark, revealing Timmy, suspended within a swirling mass of shadow, his face pale and terrified. Was this her last chance? Could she pull him free? Before doubt could seize her, Laura lunged, fingers outstretched. "Timmy, grab my hand." He hesitated, fighting against the whispers that threatened to consume him. "Mom, I can't do it," she screamed, fear clawing at her heart like talons. "Trust me." And in that moment, with shadows swirling like a tempest, she realized their bond was everything. Trembling, Timmy reached out. Fingers touched, a spark igniting as Laura's light pulsed brighter, but the shadows fought back, dragging them, pulling as if they were the weight of anchors in the monstrous sea of despair. With a deafening roar, Laura felt her stomach lurch, and she yanked with every ounce of will. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anger and disbelief. Then, just as suddenly, light exploded around them, a vast corridor shimmering ahead. "Run!" Laura shouted, almost believing they could break free. But as they darted toward the light, a voice echoed behind them, slithering through the air like a serpent. "You may escape, but you will never be free." They lunged into the brightness, only to find themselves back at an old, familiar street. Bright Halloween decorations hung on porches, laughter floated through the air, and yet something felt off. "Timmy!" Laura gasped, her heart pounding. They were home, but where were they really? Just outside the shadows, darkness breathed heavily, waiting, watching with hungry eyes. "Are we safe?" Timmy murmured, and Laura couldn't answer. The laughter behind them was too close, too hungry. Her heart sank as she pulled him closer, an icy realization coursing through her. Had they truly escaped? What awaited in the shadows, lurking beneath the surface of their new reality? As the lights flickered, she could feel the eyes upon them, the whispers returning, creeping in. The sun had set, Halloween was in full swing, and the darkness was just beginning to rise. The street felt familiar but twisted, a warped reflection of their previous life. Laughter echoed far too close, echoing off the brick walls like an ominous laugh track for a horror show. Laura and Timmy stood paralyzed, the shadows creeping along their periphery, stretching and curling with sinister intent. "Mom, I don't like this." Timmy's voice quivered, his grip tightening. "Me neither, baby." Laura glanced down the street, where children in costumes darted from house to house, filled with innocent delight. But that wasn't the feeling here. The air crackled, thickening with malevolence. An old woman, shuffling with a hunch and grotesque smile, beckoned them from the end of the block, her gnarled fingers crooked like dead branches. "Come, children, join the fun. Don't look at her." Laura's command shattered the tension like glass. She turned Timmy away, all but dragging him with her. The old woman's smile didn't waver, her gaze boring into them, sharp as knives. Suddenly, the laughter morphed, becoming shrieks real, unfiltered terror. Among the trick-or-treaters, she could make out faces in the dark, pale and hollow, eyes wide but devoid of light. They were silent now, frozen mid-laugh, staring blankly at Laura and Timmy, as if they were trapped in a nightmare. "Mom, what happened to them?" Timmy trembled against her side. "I don't know, Timmy, but we need to find somewhere safe." They sprinted down the street, the shadows creeping closer, writhing as if they had minds of their own. House after house flashed by, each a harbinger of dread. Every costume now felt like a masked deception. Then she saw it, a flicker of light darting to life in the distance. A tiny shop with a flickering neon sign that read "Ancient Relics." It seemed out of place in the midst of Halloween chaos, like a lighthouse in a stormy sea. "Mom, look," Timmy pointed. "It could be our only shot," Laura said, urgency lacing her words. They made their way through reluctant crowds, brushing past oblivious children chuckling, whilst others watched with hollow eyes. As they neared the shop, the light grew stronger, illuminating their path. "I can't believe this place exists," Laura whispered, peering through the dusty glass. Inside, shelves were packed with oddities and artifacts shimmering in shadowy corners. "Are we safe now?" Timmy asked, hope flickering in his voice. Before Laura could respond, the door creaked open, revealing a tall, slender figure with a tattered robe. The shopkeeper's skin glimmered, translucent, like he was part of the shadows themselves. "Welcome, light-bearers," he said with a voice as soft as silk, but laced with malice. "I've been expecting you." Her instincts screamed, but curiosity gripped her. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The balance between light and shadow is delicate. You have disrupted it." He pointed a long finger at them, shadows swirling around his hand, coiling like snakes. "To live in this realm, you must accept the darkness." "Never," Laura shouted defiantly, holding Timmy close. The air crackled again, the temperature dropping as shadows seemed to whisper, alive and beckoning. "Are you so certain?" The shopkeeper's eyes shimmered. "What if I told you the secrets of darkness could save him? Endless possibilities await if you just let go of your resistance." Timmy shivered, fear embedding deeper into his bones. "Mom, stay back," Laura said, her heart racing. "We won't trade him." The shadows throbbed, pulsing in rhythm with her pulse. An honesty washed over her, a sense of dread and foreboding intertwining. In an instant, the minuscule glimmer of light dimmed as if the sun itself were snuffed out. The shopkeeper stepped forward, his smile now broader, revealing long, sharp teeth. "Then your fate is sealed, light-bearers. You will know despair in ways you cannot begin to fathom." "Run," Laura screeched, grabbing Timmy's hand and darting backward, the door slamming shut behind them with a resounding thud that seemed to shake the ground. They stumbled back into the street, which had somehow transformed. Life-size skeletons danced, mocking their escape. The shadows drew back, only to surge forward again, more hurriedly, more violently. Where do we go now?" Timmy's breath came in quick gasps, his innocent eyes wide with fear. "Hold on." Laura yanked him forward, desperation lacing her every move. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of doom, the shadows prowling ever closer. Yet the laughter grew louder, enveloping them, wrapping around their minds like a shroud. Out of nowhere, she heard the voice again, the last words of the shopkeeper, hollow and haunting. "You may find torment, but the truth is always darker." With dread crawling under her skin, she glanced back. Standing amid the throng of children was the old woman again, her toothy smile broader than before. Whatever awaited them now was a question of deeper darkness and twisted truths. As they pushed deeper into the gathering dusk, the line between reality and nightmare blurred, unraveling everything Laura believed in. Just how far would they go to escape being consumed by the shadows? With shadows shifting tantalizingly behind them, an instinct told her this was only the beginning. Laura and Timmy ran into the night, shadows lunging at their heels, hungry for darkness. Each turn felt like a trap, familiar yet estranged, the echoes of once happy laughter twisting into manic shrieks that haunted her mind. The streets morphed around them, doors leading to nowhere, windows revealing specters frozen in time, trapped in their own Halloween horror. "Why won't they leave us alone?" Timmy panted, terror coloring his voice. "I don't know, but we won't give in," Laura vowed through clenched teeth. They pushed forward, determination coursing through her veins as she fought against the thickening fog of despair. Ahead, she spotted a flickering lantern illuminating what looked like an old church, its structure warped and distressed. The door hung ajar, almost inviting yet tainted with foreboding. "We need to take shelter," she urged, grabbing Timmy's small hand. As they stepped inside, a rush of stale air enveloped them, the heavy scent of incense mixed with something sweet yet rotten, clinging to their senses. "Timmy, stay close," she instructed, heart racing. The church was dim, its high ceilings casting long shadows that danced ominously in the flickering lamplight. Inch by inch, they crept further inside, the silence pressing down heavily. Then a voice echoed through the stillness, soft, beckoning. "Help me." Laura froze, her heart plummeting as she turned, the familiar echo twisting through her mind. "No," she whispered. Not again, but the voice called again, pleading, and with it, a shimmer of hope ignited in Timmy's eyes. "Mom, we have to help them." Timmy, but the concern fell to desperation. "No, we can't. It could be a trick." Yet he was already moving, drawn toward the altar where shadows melded into the air, swirling like a storm of lost souls. They paused, shivers crawling down Laura's spine as she forced herself to follow, uncertainty clawing at her heart. At the pulpit, they found them children of the darkness, faces gaunt with sorrow, their eyes shimmering like distant stars. They raised their hands, trembling. "Release us, please." In that moment, Laura realized. This was their fight. The shadows thrived on fear, but these children, their cries were laced with isolation and despair. "I'll help you," she shouted, her voice breaking. Timmy pulled away from her grip. "Mom, wait. What about us? Don't let go." But it was too late. As she reached for the children, shadows swirled around her, dark tendrils gripping her arms, pulling her into a cold embrace. Terror surged through her as the shadows transformed, morphing into figures outlined by nothingness, filled with unfathomable sorrow. "Your resolve is weak," they hissed. "No, I won't let you take my son." But the shadows were insatiable, hunger swelling. In the distance, she heard Timmy crying, fear echoing within her bones as she fought against the vicious hold. "I won't let you win. We are not afraid." With every ounce of her strength, Laura tugged against their grasp, arms trembling. She could feel the pulsating warmth within the love she had for Timmy, igniting a furious light that began to bleed into the shadows, fighting back relentlessly. The children's voices rose in harmony. "Let go of your fear. Let hope flow." And just like that, with a mighty surge, Laura flung herself back, drawing Timmy close. In that moment, love wrapped around them like a shield, pulsing bright against the encroaching night. "Mommy," Timmy cried, eyes wide and hopeful. "We can do this together," she shouted back, feeling strength inundate her soul. They raised their hands together, illuminating the dark tendrils that reached for them, pushing outward with every heartbeat. "We are not alone." The shadows recoiled, frantic, their laughter morphing into agonized shrieks as light tore through their hold. "No, you belong to us." In a world of swirling chaos, Laura felt the ground beneath pulse with a force almost sentient, alive with the truth of their bond, the essence of their love. "Flee!" The shadows cried, panic swallowing their sturdy voices. But the light surged more fiercely, and with fierce resolve. They pressed onward, breaking free from the shadows. With one last flicker, the darkness splintered and shattered around them, revealing the world bathed in moonlight. Just outside the church, laughter resilient filled the crisp air, alive with joy. They stumbled into the night, panting heavily, but adrenaline began to rush anew. "Timmy, are you okay?" "Yes. We did it, Mom." She pulled him tight, relief crashing over her. Yet as they stepped away from the church, shadows slinked back, unseen but felt, their whispers echoing. "You may have escaped tonight, but the shadows linger forever." Laura clenched her fists, feeling the chill of their promise. "We will never back down. Not again." As they ran towards the exhilarating sounds of Halloween, she cast one last glance behind. The darkness still waited, ever present, but now they held the light within. "Mom, where to now?" "To a safe place, and we'll make sure others celebrate with love, not fear." In that moment, she knew they had begun a new fight, one against the lingering shadows that wouldn't so easily fade away. There was strength in carrying the light forward, a determination woven between them even through the darkness overwhelming. And underneath the sky sprinkled with stars, a laughter chimed anew, echoes of defiance against the night, a promise, fierce and unyielding. This time, the shadows would think twice, because love had a way of chasing darkness back to where it belonged. As the Halloween festival illuminated the night, it felt like rising from the dead. But Laura knew better. This was just the beginning of a battle against the unknown. The shadows still lurked, creeping and crawling in the edges. Yet she was ready to face the truth waiting behind every door, every corner. "Mommy, look." Timmy pointed at the glowing decorations, children's shrieks of laughter ringing true. "Can we go play now? Let us go, buddy." And with her hand firmly gripping her son's, they moved into the vibrant laughter surrounding them, merging joyfully into the dim night. Because some truths ran deeper than fear, they would rise, and as they walked on, the light flickered golden, a beacon against the dark, a reminder of who they were, a child and mother, forever entwined against the encroaching shadows. And in that moment, deep in the heart of Halloween, Laura couldn't help but smile, knowing that love, the one thing shadows could never touch, would always lead them home. And as darkness lurked, ever so watchful, Laura pondered the power of light. "Ready?" she asked, turning to Timmy. He grinned back. "Always." Because the strongest hearts never surrendered, and they would face whatever darkness moved in the night together. Remember, courage requires a spark. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, I mean it. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this spine-chilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling adventure. You need to support the channel by taking these actions, and only true fans understand the importance of keeping the light alive.